I've always loved that photo.
Where's that? Where's that?
That's my phone.
Where's
Miami.
Miami, is it?
Yeah, that's one of the resorts in Miami. So that came up as, and that photo's become synonymous with most of the optics of air stays in terms of the beach and the pool and something sexy. All right, so look, I don't think I might shut those doors. Everyone's got coffees on there.
No, they're coming in.
They're coming. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Look, most people we know who are on around the table here. There was a couple of others that haven't arrived, but they may in a minute, and at the second one. Thanks for coming. And no one here's really seen the actual app and the desktop version. So now and I can talk openly here. It's been a bit of a journey to get to here, raise the capital, and spend the time on the app this year. So I'll launch straight into it so you can actually see it. So even, I guess part of just some background, part of the concept in terms of the user experience, because we're a B2C component of the company, business to customer, when we sat down with the designers and the tech guys, there was a big component of saying, well, what do we really want to achieve other than just an app? And part of the briefing was, think of the Swiss Army knife, bit of a gadget for everything, nice design, works, all that kind of stuff, a one-stop shop for travel. Marry that with Instagram, because Instagram is so powerful in general, but particularly with travel. So bring those two sort of concepts, components together. So wherever we can, we've tried to use images because it's a sexy thing in terms of travel. So even from the get-go of the login screen, and when you look at the competitor set, even ones that are well established like Expedia and Booking.com, in my opinion, they are cartoonish, a bit sort of old school. I mean, they've got a lot of inventory and been successful, but as we trying to break into the travel space and the digital age, we sort of wanted to sort of jazz it up. So even from the get-go, the login. Now, a couple of components here. I mean, we've chosen an image, whether that stays or we use another one, or it's a revolving image, or somehow that gets plugged into someone's own photo album and it's their own images from their travel, just to personalise it as we go forward, because travel as part of the platforms going forward is all about personalisation and AI. Okay, so straight away we started as the app based on the GPS. We're plugged into what they call a global distribution system at the moment, a GDS. There's about 4 in the world. There's Amadeus, Sabre, Travelport, a few others. They have over years built their databases in terms of hotels globally. And there are ways to be connected. We've chosen with Amadeus because it's cheap, it's easy to do. Scalability, we've got second stages of integrations with Simple Night and a couple of others. But for all intents and purposes, they've got about 300,000 or 400,000 hotels globally on their platform. Based on the GPS, it will tell me where I am, and obviously, Park Hyde is where we are. And based on their algorithms, popular hotels is Park Hyde at the moment, Harbour Rocks, and the Seagull and Shangri-La. That's all within a 200 or 300 metre radius of where we are.
Amadeus, can you just explain that a little bit more for the likes of Mike and whatnot? Who they are?
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah,
You are?
it's a GDS, global distribution system. Their claim to fame is over 25 years of being in business, 30 years.
50, close to 50.
50 years.
Well, basically travel agents.
Well, no,
many
they're a
of them use
database.
it.
They've got the flights,
Yeah.
like all the different flights pulled into one database. Hotels, and they're
So just to explain, they manage travel inventory for the world and distribute it via travel agents, via
My travel
online.
agent uses it, so that's why.
Correct,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but what they actually really do well is manage the airline and the hotel's inventory. So or Singapore Airlines, when you check in at the counter, that everyone's probably forgotten what that feels like, but that is Amadeus's technology going. The customers just checked in at the airport, and they manage all that.
So
And
they sit on the
obviously-
back end and we sit on the front end, basically.
Pretty well, you can
Yeah.
put it that way. I mean, they're a part of the B2B, the business to business
okay.
back end. So, they're not ones that we will go and buy or invest in. Top the Simple Nights of the world and others that we want to build out our back end, but it'll take us, $4, $5, $10 million and 5 years to do certain things.
Yeah.
Our quickest route to, generate to market and generating cash is plugging into these others through an API. So you just physically plug it in, which we have. And scale, and then you scale it from there. There are others, and then there are channel managers, which we'll talk about. How do we get to market and other channel partners that we will bring on board. So, but in terms of just the optics, so straight away we're straight into there. So you can, if the little love heart, there are little what they call product features that we've built into the MVP. MVP, if you're not familiar with, is a minimal viable product to go to market with. This we feel is more than just your minimal viable product. It's because we've had the time, we've been able to raise a bit more cash to do little product features to be at least on par to some degree with the competitor set who've spent millions over the years to build their product, and then obviously they spent millions in positioning themselves in the marketplace. But in terms of a product from that, so like that little love heart is it's a user experience UX that we call that people would be expecting, and the little product features cost between $2,000 to $5,000 to do. So if you do 20 different product features, that adds up. But we've done what we think is needed to get it, at least start to get into the market. So let's get into parts of it, and straight away from there you can go, let's say Sydney, or let's do Melbourne. Right. And if you have a look at, there's no confirmation button. So we'll get some customer feedback whether we need it or not, but to try and make this slick, you just go, the dates that you want, and then you just tap the screen. So there's no confirmation, go to the next stage, which the youngest set, the 15 or 18 to 30 market, in the digital age, it's a slickness to it. Whereas my age, maybe, others in the room are looking for a confirmation button, to go to the next step, but it's all friction. So we'll get customer feedback, whether we need to put. I mean, when I first started playing with it, I was going, particularly on the month, I was going to next, which will take me to the next month. So,
It's always a pain in the ass when
well,
you're booking.
you can't please 100% of people time, but you'll get the balance, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of slickness, so that's just on the popular pages, right? But what I really want to get into is when we go to here. So that's the Explorer button. At the bottom, you'll see the Explore button. You can hit the bottom or the top. And at the bottom, you'll see hotels, restaurants, transport. At the moment, we'll have flights, concierge, our sunrise program, or anything that we want to add in here as part of the product features and search. We wanted to put them on there as what they call placeholders. But if you do that, Apple wouldn't have approved the app because there's no functionality. But I wanted to have that there to show investors. But here, so that will scroll. So it will scroll just like any other smart screen. But you've got hotels, restaurants, transport, because we do have functionality behind that at the moment. So for example, if I go to hotels, very similar to other, the high-end competitor set, Hotels Tonight is an interesting app to follow. So in here, you'll see, this is Melbourne, 26th to the 30th of November. Now these things will scroll at the bottom, and you'll see the prices changing up the top as we go along. So it's a pretty good user experience in that respect. And then you've got list, filters, and key. Very similar. Hit list, comes up. It just makes things vertical in terms of a horizontal scroll. So me personally, I don't like it, but there is a user that does like that functionality. The other one is filters, which is familiar, and you'll have all the different filters that are provided through the Amadeuses of the world. We've added digital key to it at the moment, so you can click it from there, because most in this room are aware that one of our major value propositions is the digital key, booking and search and being rewarded functionality. Now, one of the, this is where, the sexiness of it, you'll see the different color codes, or three at the moment. 157 is a light shade of blue because that's the one that's on screen. So as you move, it will change up the top. Now, I'm sure everyone's probably thinking, what the hell's the orange one? That's how we've done a point of difference with the digital key. So we put a little button up there called key. And whether we change that to digital or just an icon, we're not sure, but for the purpose of now,
yeah.
you click key and it just goes straight to the digital key hotels, right? And it's based on a GPS. Now, if you need to go, you know, you're doing a booking here, but I actually need to be in Parramatta, then you just move the map, or you type in Parramatta up in the search criteria. So when you get to here, then there's only, at the moment we know there's only 2 hotels in Melbourne that have digital key. Because there's a couple of things to our, you know, bag of tricks is the database that have digital keys, and this, you know, we'll get into the second part of the conversation of how, why that is important and why we've got proprietary, you know, connections into that, is the best way of putting it. You've got Grand Hyatt and the Novotel. So we know those 2 have digital key. You can pick either one of those. Just click on the icon, either the placeholder card at the bottom or the price at the top, and it pops up the hotel. So then it comes into things about the hotel. It's got room service, you know, all those types of stuff. And all this comes from the GDS, right, which work with the hotel there. So as they get updated, we get updated. Scroll down. Now, there are 2 parts of things here to be conscious of. We plugged in the Google reviews, which is really important. People make decisions on their
really
peers,
good, yeah.
right? So Google is the one that we're using for a bunch of reasons. We're not using TripAdvisor, but Google. And they've got reviews and star rating. Then you've got the airstays rating. So on the left-hand side, you'll see what I would call traditional questions, right? Now on the right-hand side, let's call them new age travel 2.0 questions. Now they may chop and change as we go forward and what's important, but it's part of the data that we want to collect as we move forward. This forms part of our second patent, which we've lodged, is at the end of the check-in, at the end of the checkout, in your stay, you get an SMS or an email. Thank you, Mr. Taylor, for staying at Hotel XYZ. Here's the questionnaire, very simple, star rated. You know, it's not long-winded. And by doing that, you will actually get rewarded through the cryptocurrency, which we'll talk about today. We're the only ones doing that we can reward, and we put a patent around the process. And using crypto as part of that.
Mark, are you going to talk about the digital key in more detail? I don't want to jump the gun in terms of COVID and security and things.
Absolutely.
You're going to talk about that later, are you?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
The most important is the way I'm visualising, and I like the feedback because in terms of the presentation, is to go through the app, because no one's really seen it, you know, maybe half a dozen over the phone, but this is the first time I can actually show it to them.
Sorry, I just didn't want to jump the gun.
Yeah. And then we start digging into this, you know, in terms of the format, where's our intellectual property, where's the risks analysis, how do we sort of, you know, provide that sense of our roadmap, as I put it. The digital key is a big part of that. So anyway, so going to here, so then you just select a room. Now, I'll just go back there. Just so you understand, when we were going through the development of this, that little button, select a room, was not always there. But from a UX, it's like, how do I get to my room? Like, it's having these, what they call little tabs, floating over the rest of everything else. It's the user experience, the less friction, the less fragmentation that we've talked about. When you come to tech, it's not tech, it's the app, it's the UX, which is the design. So important. You don't think much of it, but it's like, the adage I use, it's the electric window or the wind down window in the cars when they change. They're just big differences. Select the room, and then your typical thing comes up. The room types and price. Nothing's changed in hospitality between location and price. We've all travelled, whether it's family, corporate, leisure, as a bachelor or whatever. Price and location has not changed. They're hallmarks of travel. As we go forward, we get scale, we get into market, we'll do better deals with the Amadeuses of the world, or the channel managers we use, or the hotels directly. So price becomes, a commodity, if I can put it that way. Everything else that we build around that is our cryptocurrency, customer acquisition strategies, whatever we can do to make it sexier. I'll just pick the first room. Now because this hotel, I specifically chose the digital key hotel that came up in that search criteria. Because this hotel has digital key, this step comes up, and this is the patent number 1 that we lodged. Spent quite a lot of money on. Now, just going back, if you recall at the start, the login page, I did that specifically. There was an image at the back. It was a beach and a pool and a girl in a red dress type stuff. See the difference between it's just a white background? So we're gonna, we haven't chosen an image just yet, it might be that digital key as a background, but it's just, there's a lot of real estate there that hasn't been utilised. Now whether we somehow can do some sort of advertising or marketing or pop-up with Google or other things, we're just gonna use as much of the real estate, whether it's a tablet, or a desktop or the phone, going forward. But Luke is the founder of 8Storm, right, the online casino. We might have some things popping up here at the specific components that relates to, you know, something digital. I mean, and this is the digital key step. But that's sort of a, you know, bit of a side note. This is very important because this hotel is a digital key enabled hotel. This step comes up and it says, you know, this hotel allows for smartphone enabled access. Yes, booking experience digital key room and be rewarded with this state. So by ticking that box, you don't have to, but by ticking that box, you are signaling not only to us, but through the data packet to the hotel that I want the digital key experience. Now, if the customer doesn't actually know what they're doing, that's a different story, but you know, there's a narrative out there, there's a communication process, and through the hotels and everyone, you know, we've got to get that message out there. We continue booking, and by doing that, you get rewarded as part of your reward program. So you get, and I'll come to that in a moment. So then, you know, the summary page comes up. We don't have any stay in the system at the moment, but if you had, you know, our stay balance, which is our reward program, had 1,000 points in there, whatever it might be, you would tick that box to help subsidise or supplement your payment, and that's at the top. And it's all about where it is in the sequencing too. It goes through to there, policy, rules, blah blah blah, credit card, all that stuff. Now this is very important. I mean, I don't know if anyone's seen crypto of late, but it's pushed around through 15,000 US for Bitcoin. Ethereum's up nearly 500 again. So we've got, you click on the crypto side, you can make payment in the crypto world or through your cryptocurrency. So we're going to drag them into the travel sector. There's about 4 of us in the space at the moment. We've got different ways, the way we're approaching it. You know, some of them I don't like what they're, and I think they're not from travel, so I don't think they get it, but you know, they're having a go. Whereas, you know, so you can make a payment from here, and then you just go to continue booking. I'm just showing the crypto side, not the credit card side. You go to here and then complete transaction. So then it opens up. We plugged into Coinbase, and then you start using your Coinbase or Bitcoin, all that kind of stuff. I won't complete the transaction because we haven't loaded up at the back end, but you can see it gets us to here.
How does that actually work? Are we just collecting Bitcoin as a company? Or?
No, well, people want to pay it, yeah, we will collect it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but
we're paying the cash and just collecting the Bitcoin?
Both. We'll collect it, it's instant.
That's instant.
Yeah, because the gateway at the back. But we have to set up a bit of almost like an arbitrage, have a bit of a store of value of cash to collect it to everyone account and stuff. Yeah, because then we've got to pay Amadeus.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
Well, and there's a little bit of a trick because some of this Amadeus, not us, but our back end, the Simple Night guys, who we've got not just a strategic relationship but a contractual relationship. They do all our back end, the customer relations. Someone wants to call a 1800 number. The telephone.
Where's
guys.
the ultimate? I don't quite follow it. I sort of do.
Yep.
Let's say someone has Bitcoin and they want to pay us with Bitcoin. How does it who ultimately takes the risk? Is the hotel taking a risk on air stays? I'm going to say, or they're
in terms of the timing?
No, ultimately for payment. I mean, so who's accepting the payment?
There's no risk. Once they pay it,
yeah, we've got Bitcoin, right?
Well, we'll get paid in Bitcoin, correct?
So how do we pay the hotel?
Cash if they want
that's
cash.
what he was saying.
So we're running a risk.
But when you say
we're running
risk,
a Bitcoin risk. We're running a Bitcoin risk.
Well, no, because we just liquidate straight away. We're not holding it.
It's instantaneous.
I understand that. Whilst it's liquid.
We may go down the path of becoming, let's call it a treasurer, right? If we want, it's like foreign exchange.
Yeah,
now I'm putting my investment banking cap on here because we're a sophisticated audience, right? We could do that if we took a view, but we're not in the business of gambling.
But let me put it simply.
Yeah.
Let's park Hyatt, right? Yeah. I go on, I've got Bitcoin in my wallet, and I decide to book through your app, and it's $300, Bitcoin, whatever, okay.
Equivalent.
Yep.
Now, when does the hotel get paid? Immediately? 5 days later, 7 days later? Who do they send the invoice to?
So
Park hire.
Yeah, correct, right? So the risk that you're talking about is basically, hey, if we collected Bitcoin that has a certain rate, and if we don't turn that and pay that customer, there's risk involved in terms of the fluctuation of the pricing of Bitcoin.
Not for the customer itself, but
Yeah,
for
but for
us,
us.
potentially, or the
Correct.
hotels.
So how they could easily solve that, well, and I'm sure they've already solved it, is whether they want to transact at that moment and turn that Bitcoin into cash straight away, so there's no fluctuations.
Who?
And then
Us.
Yeah,
these
okay,
guys.
Yeah.
It's, not, it's
And
no
then
different
hold
if
that
you
as
want to pay
cash
US
when-
dollars and Australian dollars. Think of Bitcoin as just another
No,
currency.
the park hire, the transaction is that you've secured the booking, you've got
Yep.
your digital key, whatever. Park hire then is going to say someone's got to pay me,
Yeah.
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Credit card, simple.
Well, yes, but it's
They're
all, there's a
looking now
currency
to
restriction.
airstays.
Yeah,
They're looking to
that's-
airstays to pay them, aren't they?
But it's the same deal.
It's the same
It's the
thing.
same deal.
Yeah.
Just think of Bitcoin as just another currency.
I understand that.
There is a bit more fluctuation in obviously the price of Bitcoin against a stable coin, but the risk is pretty small intrinsically.
Who
Yeah.
pays park hire?
Airstays.
Airstays.
That's what I'm saying. So airstays has to have the cash. It can't pay in Bitcoin.
That's what you were saying before.
But no, I understand that, but it's no different whether we get paid in cash from a credit card,
Right.
or an EFT, or paid in crypto. We still have to pay them.
Providing Bitcoin's liquid.
Yeah, but at the back end, we've got the Coinbases of our accounts.
It's exchange.
We can liquidate
Right, okay.
instantaneously.
I'm just trying to-
Pretty
I'm just-
instantaneously.
okay.
Yeah,
But that
yeah.
is the risk.
But that is a risk, but there's a
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
hard
okay.
currency
You're
risk.
exactly, you're on the right,
Right,
your
okay.
questions
I just
are-
want to understand what the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
sequence was, yeah.
Sure.
Is that a P&L item on Airstays account?
What's that?
The
Bitcoin?
Bitcoin.
Well, that's a good question, whether we hold it as if we're holding it as part of our current, it won't be, it'll be held in cash if it's not liquidated, if it's liquidated, if it's not, it'll be,
You're taking a markup.
well, not really a markup, no.
How do you price it then?
The Bitcoin,
Yeah.
the market part, whatever the market says.
Right, but are you taking the P&L with that? Like if I do, banks take P&L on an FX to US to Aussie.
It would just
Oh, well,
sit
it
under
would, yeah.
currency fluctuations and in a P&L.
Right, but, okay. Yeah.
No, I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, if someone pays you in Aussie or US, then
Yeah, we're
you've
taking
got a
risk.
US hotel room rate, it pays you in Aussie.
Yep.
You've got to take a currency position on that. Now, whether you take it as a P&L, a lot of the travel operators take it as a P&L item, a profit and loss.
Right.
They take a markup of 5% or 8% on the underlying transaction. The question I'm having is there a P&L for the Bitcoin translation
Well, there
into
would be,
the
if
hotel
it's an
room rate?
asset, yeah, there would be.
But does Airstays take it as a P&L? Is it a P&L in the projections? Will you be taking it as a profit? Or
In terms of the
Not sure.
fluctuations, will you be taking it as a
Well, if there's a currency trade on the Bitcoin, yes, you would have to take up either a loss or a profit, there's no doubt.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
no, I'm just asking if it's a P&L. A lot of the travel operators take a P&L, have FX as a P&L, and they take a clip, basis point clips when they pay the Aussie you pay to Airstays to go and pay the US room rate in LA.
Okay, well, we'll follow whatever the normal status is.
This is a big deal with Bitcoin. It's a big deal with
Yeah.
crypto and how people are treating this. So
Yeah.
just
But it's it's the same exact problem if it also applies to credit cards, right? Because
Yeah.
credit cards like for a consumer, we would normally charge a flat fee, but in the back end of it all, we're getting, if you're using a Citibank premium card, we're getting a different fee to a
Yeah.
Citibank entry level card, right?
agree.
And those fluctuations, you're exactly right, they go onto the P&L.
Well, my point here is it
It's
should
the
be.
same thing. Yep.
This should be a P&L item.
Yeah.
Well, if there's from an accounting perspective, if there's an asset out there, whether it's operating or an asset, right?
Yeah.
Which P&L is operating, if it's on the balance sheet, it's an asset, depends on how we.
Well, this is
Mark,
this is always on the
Mark,
P&L.
I'm pretty sure that your CFO has mentioned this and said it is a P&L.
It's always a
The
P&L.
fluctuations are for you to bank.
Well, if we're going to hold it as a store of value, it might be on the balance sheet as opposed to the P&L.
How do I
But that's not an operating item.
Yeah.
No, I
Holding
understand
it as
that.
a store of value, that's
Correct, I agree, and that's where we may put it. The difference, I think what you're saying, as I understanding it, is the difference. If we're going to make a markup on it, that's
Yeah.
just profit.
Yeah, well, the other reason I'm
That's
asking
P&L.
is there's people being burned a lot in crypto translation into cash. Drug dealers will take a 15% hit on P&L, on a markup on Bitcoin to cash, they're happy to pay 15-20%. And it does fluctuate that much, but they don't care.
Sure.
They're happy to do it. I just think that it's...
Their margins are big.
Well, their margins are... This stuff is coming from the
15%.
ether. No one's seen it before.
Yeah.
And the guys who are using Bitcoin often are people who are operating in the, not the dark web, but they're operating a little bit...
They've got different
Yeah.
perspectives on life and fundamentals. For now, in the short term, once we get more sophisticated with how much volume's coming through from the crypto
Sure.
world, we'll put some rope around it and resources to make sure we manage it. In the short term, it's just another form of cash.
No, that's right. But with
There is a risk of
counting.
no, I wouldn't say accounting at this stage, but in terms of translating it from Bitcoin into cash to make payment.
Yeah.
At this
There's
stage,
no
I
doubt.
would say that there's two ways of looking at it, right? Number one way is the brand publicity you'd get where a normal consumer gets access to do payments in Bitcoin in the travel sector.
Yeah.
Plus also, hotels being able to be like, okay, well, we have a partner in this space that if you want to pay by Bitcoin, use someone like Airstays.
Yeah.
So it's more of a publicity.
Agreed.
There's no transactions in place. Like you can't buy a can of Coke. Different type of Coke, right? But you can't buy a
Good example.
Yeah, sorry. You can't buy a can of Pepsi with Bitcoin anywhere right now,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
so
actually,
I'm sure there are places you can, but in terms of volume, it's not there.
No.
It will eventually get there, but if Mark's team, their marketing guys need to just use this and use this as a marketing tool.
Yeah, it's great marketing.
Well,
Yeah,
there's a crypto world out there that their real world use of crypto is limited to just trading it, up and down, just like gold or platinum or something, right? As more and more suppliers, real world suppliers come in, ATMs now in certain parts of the world, you can go and use your phone to your wallet, pay in crypto or take cash out using your Bitcoin, because it's the service, the infrastructure has to build around it as well. Using Coca-Cola as an example, they put out a vending machine that you can, buy a can of Coke for $2 or $3 using your crypto. So more and more will get there. The industry's come a long way in the last, I won't say 20 years, but the last 5 years in terms of its blockchain. You've got to separate between blockchain and crypto, utility coins, security tokens, or security coins. So, the infrastructure's changing. There is more security around it. People are understanding it better, and it is. We took us a long time to wrap our heads around what the hell is Bitcoin and blockchain and utility tokens. Once we made the leap that yes, it's going to here to stay. It can be used in travel, and can we use it in our bag of tricks? Then the trifecta came along and said, yep, we're going to build it into one of our points of difference.
Sorry, Marcus, I go slightly.
Sure.
So all the volume from the cryptocurrencies coming through Coinbase, or is it just...
At this stage, Coinbase. Yeah.
Okay, so-
Our account that when we did our ICO in the beginning where we raised the mill is Kraken, and then because it was the only exchange out there that would convert into euros.
And is there a set transaction charge per transaction of crypto, or is it?
Not from us, but there's in the crypto world there's a thing called gas. You've got to pay for the transactions, like 0.001. It's very, very low when you compare to a bank that charges you, $50 flag for them, really shit currency rates. But that's at the back, and that's where you may have heard the term mining, where that's what they do, a bit of an arbitrage type stuff. But not set from us. But as we get more sophisticated, we'll start putting into revenue lines and where we can see, another line on that we can make some money on. But also cocooned in the context that we are trying to remove a lot of the fees, the grease in the system. I mean, we make our top line revenues from commissions and a clip on pretty much everything we can, but marginal. So it's really about volume and channels that we can create that either may be unique to us or unique to a handful of people in the game.
And your utility token, that will be stabilized against a stable coin against the USD or something eventually, or?
Two layers there.
Okay.
Stable, I don't know if people are familiar with a stable coin. It's a coin that is stabilized in some form or shape. You may have heard of Libra, which is the Facebook, and the guys were trying to get behind. They were going to put some gold and some assets behind it, to stabilize it. Our stability with our stay token will be stabilized by the points. So when you make a booking, you'll get up to from 1 to 4 points worth of rewards. We will pull some of those aside, put them on balance sheet, and so our coin will be stabilized by that. So once we list on a crypto exchange, our stay token won't have too great a volatility, but there will be some, but it will, the goal is it will grow in value based on supply and demand. So the more hotels we bring on board, the more supply partners we bring on board, the more demand there is for our platform and our token, it appreciates in value. So a big part of our enterprise value as we go forward from a business point of view is our stake currency, because we hold a lot of that. Now in terms of the other parts to this, when you've stayed at a hotel, you've made a booking hotel and you've requested a digital key, the hotel knows who you are, you've asked for the digital key. When you get the digital on the day of check-in, you'll get through here. You get there's nothing at the moment, notification. So that's sort of like the WhatsApp inside the app of communicating with the traveller. The times of check-in and all that kind of stuff. Where we've integrated with the hotel, either directly or through a third party, but we've got a two-way communication in there, even from us to the hotel. There's a travel agent in Melbourne that's wanting to do something with us, from Mrs. Gary and those guys, wanting to use parts of the app either directly or as a white label, because they're a travel agent, a bit like, not as big as Hello World or Flight Centre, but got 140 staff around the country, where they, and we had a big discussion, who owns the customer? At the beginning they've walked into a bricks and mortar travel agent saying, hey, I want to travel to Hawaii, so there's a first step. Once they've made the booking, they've got the flight. So the flight, Qantas thinks they're their customer. You get to the hotel, the Honolulu, Hawaii hotel says, now you're my customer. But that travel agent at the beginning who did the work, still wants to be connected to that travel through their travel experience. They don't want to let go of it. So they're looking at, digital solutions to being connected, saying, hey, how's your trip going type stuff, but through a professional platform. So things through notifications they want to be able to do, just connect or keep connected. I was saying before, so when you get your digital key and you get the prompted, you want to go to your hotel room, whether the hotel has skipped reception or you still got to go to reception, there's a little component set up. This is where you get your digital key, open the phone and open the door. I'll show you a demonstration of a video of the Open Key app, which is the actual digital key, which will start getting into the digital key component of the presentation. And the other components to the app is favourites. So any favourites that we had ticked on will populate into here, or unpopulate, because people want to see what their they pick favourites for a reason. Now we start talking in here. At the bottom is the stay reward. Now one of the beauties of being a somewhat first mover advantage is when we did the crypto 2 years ago, the ticket code for our crypto, we were able to get the word stay, S-T-A-Y, that's our ticket code, like ANZ or BHP. If we did it today, who knows if it would still be available, but luck of the draw, first mover advantage. Sometimes it's not a good thing, but in our case it was. So if you played on the word stay, because it's in the word air stays, but it's also synonymous with staying somewhere and traveling. So we put, stay rewarded. Anywhere we've talked about stay healthy, some of our programs and all these others, stay pay, all these other things that we've got as product features, we've tried to put trademarks around it and all that kind of stuff. So stay's become not just our crypto or our utility token, but a big part of our messaging and narrative and brand management. So when we talk about a program, I personally don't like the word loyalty program. I think rewarded is better, but I'm open to feedback on that. And then anyway, so here talks about what do you get rewarded with? 1% for booking a room. So if you $100 room, you'll get 1% back, straight back into your wallet. For using Stay, so if you use Stay to pay, you get another 1%. So if you paid $100 in crypto, you'll get 2%. For leaving a review, that's what I talked about, our second patent. When you at the end of it, you'll get a questionnaire, boom, boom, boom. You get rewarded for that. And then for booking digital keys. So we're actually, our big part of our narrative is actually rewarding you for doing what you're doing anyway. A few little twists and turns here, but it's the mouse and cheese. We want people to use digital key. We want the hoteliers to promote digital key. The digital suppliers want you to use digital key. So, we're positioning ourselves as the Google of digital key in many respects. But I don't want to be in the digital key space. I think it's,
Mark, just because I'm probably a little bit behind what other people are in terms of understanding this. The rewards are paid in terms of coins, is that right?
The reward is
Or
the
they're alternatives?
No. You get paid in stay, which is the Airstays owns its own utility token called stay.
Right.
So think of a reward program, frequent flyer points,
Yeah.
Virgin, Velocity. It's a point.
It's the same?
It's the same in terms of it's a point. The difference with us is it goes to your wallet as a form of stay. You can use it within our ecosystem and anyone else that accepts it, right? But ultimately, you can sell it on the third-party exchange, Binance or Kraken or Coinbase, once we've listed on the crypto, and that's part of our roadmap, which we'll get into.
So if I'm a client and I've just earned 5 points, how is that acknowledged, and what can I do with it immediately, if anything?
The acknowledgement goes into notifications in here in the summary page.
So you get a message or something?
Well, it goes straight to your wallet. It's like when you
can go and look at your wallet.
Qantas, it goes straight to your
Yep.
account.
Yep.
Right, you can go to the app or online and log into your account. In this case, it goes straight into your app, and that's what it'll actually pop up in there. So at the top there's stay balance.
Right.
It'll be in there.
So then what can I do with it?
Then from there, at the moment, in the short term, you can utilise it within our ecosystem.
Make another booking?
Make another booking. So if you in the beginning where we had the booking in the sequencing at the very top, there's a little tick box, stay balance, if you want to use that and how much you want to use of it.
Yep.
Right. And we've got some terms and conditions around that.
Right.
In the short term, that's why the key to get into market at the moment is very, very gently, very, very softly, but iron out like how do we've got it all roadmap on paper and in our brains, but once you get in the market, you've got to iron out the wrinkles.
So does that mean if in that example market there's 1%, do I get a 4% discount off my next booking if I've got one of those of each?
It's not
Is it expressed as a percentage of saving?
No, it's not a saving. It's more if you book a room now for $100 and you qualify for all that, you'll get 4% of that $100, $4 of stay into your wallet to be used on your next book.
It's like flybys, isn't it?
It's like flying.
It's better. It's all the other things are points. This is dollars. That makes more sense than points.
It's a point. It's a point that has a value, a cash value that you can then redeem, either into the for more bookings.
Morning.
Or sell on a crypto on whatever the value is at that state at the moment.
The value is obviously variable depending on.
You guys know each other.
Mark, the next thing is in terms of other complementary, if you like, or interfacing, like the Hyatt Hotel have a reward point system as well. Does the client still can he still be a member of the Hyatt and still get his points for? How is that compromised? So what's the in any way if it is?
Okay, like any program, if you haven't booked directly, you're not entitled.
Yeah.
Once
okay.
you come here and you start using the facilities, food and beverage,
You get
and
these,
earn those points directly, there's no difference there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, there's unless Hyatt but Hyatt can, or other hotels of the world, if they want to start signing up for the stay token, if it's one of those things that could get traction as we position as a global travel currency. Maybe stick up our ass, but that's a narrative, right?
Right.
No one else is doing it at this. I mean, there are others in the competitor set, but we'll just see how the world accepts us as we go forward.
Mark, can I ask something up there just regarding this state? I think that is your golden ticket, right?
I was about to
That
say the same
page?
thing.
And on that page, your stay point is your
I know,
ticket.
but not many in Australia get it. I know.
It's a dollar value.
But because I personally think you need to reconfigure the wording about all this and go out there into B2B play and get it up there on Expedia, on American Express Travel, right? Because that means more than any of their frequent flyers.
We've got to have value on the exchange for it to have any value at all.
Correct, yeah. So that should be the whole thought process in terms of how do we get this out there?
You're right.
Because now you're doing two things at the moment, which I see, right? Is you're pushing Airstays as a customer for that, as a platform, then you're also trying to push this as your Trojan horse.
Well, one of the digital keys, the other digital keys, there are a number of players, and we've got different audiences even in this mix here. Nika Merzos from travel, Peter's well-experienced investment banker, Michael, Chris, Luke's from the casino world, right, as I am, and Gary's an investor. So you've got different thought processes, different levels of understanding. That's why part of this is it's a B2B, B2C presentation to answer different parts of the question. Here it's more to show we've got the app, we've got functionality, we've got usability. Is it good, is it bad, change things around. How we then take it to market, and once we're in market, that's those micro steps which we're well across, and that's why anyone who gets seriously interested in the investment, we bring in the Eric Moes of the world and the Marcos of the world, the other co-founders who are in America. Now, Eric's, founder of OpenTable, sold it for $2.6 billion US to Booking.com. Now, different timing. They started at 95, 98, when people were still asking what the fuck's the internet. 20 years later, it's how can you tap into the apps because of smartphones? That's when we start getting into, and that's why we're probably almost starting to step into the next part of the real, scratching the surface of the discussions is, Google's out there, does not want to be in the OTA space. I know Nick and I, we've talked about that. They don't want to be in the OTA space per se, because they've got Booking.com and Expedia.com, who are, the two gorillas in the world, paying them billions of dollars in advertising. But over here, they are aligning themselves with preferred partners who they put out there and do deals with, provide the data, who become the front end for travel, which is our partner, Simple Night. So we partner with Simple Night. Simple Night's partnered with Google. Simple Night, you guys are not aware that it's a company we'd like to buy or invest in as part of our back end. Mers is doing some stuff in the space. Hopefully down the track we'll get closer aligned when you're ready. So the back end is important. I was saying to earlier, Peter, the back end tech and how things are done is very important. But at the moment, our focus is on the front end for the user, bringing customers to the platform. Stay in the rewarding of the cryptocurrency it's a tokenized reward program, and it's cash. It's cash back to your wallet if you want to, but a little bit sexy because it's crypto to some degree. And the crypto world is 500 million users on the Telegram group, which we've got our own official Telegram group. They don't do anything else but trade.
Sorry, because you come from the casino space, does crypto, is there any legalities with crypto? Because can I pay out a customer in crypto? Those obviously cash is.
Yeah, you put it back. You can put it back to the crypto exchange. It's not. It's a very grey. There's very little framework around the industry at the moment. To answer your question, yes, you can, but the legalities around it, I'm not 100% sure.
Because the payouts are the biggest issues when it comes to online gambling.
Absolutely.
Right. So if you do a payout in coins, you could probably get away with that.
Yeah, as long as as long as you're going back to an exchange. Otherwise, you're opening yourself up to what people were saying earlier about the you're putting yourself at a potential loss for the exchange rate at the time.
I suppose the onus is on the receiver to declare the income coming.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if you're doing it through Australia, there's some government body that's going to come down and you say,
we're staying out of Australia for that particular
me.
reason. We're staying out of Australia at the moment for that reason.
Money laundering issues there as well.
So that's why we're looking at Asia primarily at the moment with cryptocurrency, because there is a lot of grey area.
And to add some colour around that, when we decided to get into do a crypto for us as a pillar, we did that, made that decision late November 2017. By 2018, we had our white paper, through the network, had a group, exclusive subscriber base, and we did $1 million US in 5 days in June 2018, late June, which was really the start of the crypto winter, or the start of it. So, and then from there, but we did it through Kraken. We only accepted the British and Australian and some parts of Asia. Anyone from China or USA, through the KYC, we didn't accept. Not that there was a lot, but we just didn't want to be, there was too much uncertainty in terms of where you took the money from. So we just didn't take it. It was easier not to. And then, and then we had the crypto winter for about 1.5 years, but now it's picked up. If anyone's seen Bitcoin lately. Now just to round off, the rest of the app. I mean, when you've got your trips and upcoming trips, previous trips, it's it gets stored in here in this part of the app. User profile. Not that there's a lot in here because, but as I was saying earlier on, wherever we can, we've tried to use images that relate to some form of travel. And then you've got your summary there: stay, pending, night, cities, countries. We'll add to this as we go forward and backwards and get customer feedback and other people's input to it. And then things like all the terms and conditions, all the legalities. Rather having it contained within the app, we made a decision to have it linked to the app. So we've got these other sites out there that you can, and we call it the fine print. So there's a page out there that you click on, and you can go to, you know, all the different terms and conditions that, you know, that we can think of. And we try to make it a bit sexy. One thing I learned from the Virgin Group was make all the mundane stuff fun too, even like the fine print and the, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we put notices out there. It's about, you know, the lawyers always tell you to do things. So we try to make mundane shit fun where it's possible. And even with some of our images, you know, like the cookie policy, cookies and milk, because it's a cookie policy. So, but, you know, just little things like that we tried to build in. The other thing that I hadn't shown, we talked about the hotels, restaurants. I'll just go to Washington. And this is all leads into our less friction, less functionality, less friction, less fragmentation. So if I'm in Washington, I won't click the hotels when we did it before, but if I click restaurants, we've done an integration with OpenTable. So all within the app, you don't have to go outside the app to get to your other apps like OpenTable or, you know, the Fork, I think it's called now, TripAdvisor's one. So you can, you know, within the app, you can go here. Now, whether, you know, Nick, we've already presented it to you before, you've already come up with a few ideas how we can make things even sharper. So that's, you know, that's being open to new suggestions that make the UX even better. But in terms of the, you know, the MVP, so you can get in there, you click on the restaurant that you want. At the moment, some hotels in America aren't operational. Okay, so from within, if the hotel is open, because a lot of them are only open for take-it at the moment, but inside the app, you can actually make the booking within the app, you know, once you've gone to their page.
So if you click on make the reservation, you go through to OpenTable?
Yeah, but only for some hotels, either they've closed down or just
take reservations, you'll go through
it'll go to OpenTable, correct.
Like the OpenTable.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where, like, the Erics of the world will, you know, make a few phone calls. We want to. This is what they call a tier 2 integration. There's a tier 1 integration, which, you know, once we get going with volume and actually in market, there's a better integration. One those things at the bottom will have a nice little photo and more, and you can start, you know, doing your search criteria in terms of the list.
What's the revenue model?
Well, the revenue model at the moment is we want to get into market just for the customer.
For the OpenTable bookings.
From our point of view, is, well, we want to work on a bit of a clip somewhere. I'm not sure how that's going to work in terms of what that could look like, but the Erics of the world will negotiate.
You need 1,000 bookings.
I don't know what the minimums are.
In order to start generating a kickback.
Okay, all right. 1,000 bookings. I don't even know if it's 1,000 bookings a day, a minute, or a year. But you know, at the moment, it's more about creating the less friction, so you don't have to go out of this app. Everything contained within here. Other things that, you know, as a traveller, when I'm picking a hotel or a restaurant, I want to know where that is in the location, particularly if I don't know where the city. So we want to create a map that I book the hotel through the hotel site, drops a pin, and that pin is located. I know where that pin is in terms of the hotel. So I'll pick my restaurant that's nearby to this. So I'm not going in and out of apps all the time.
Mark, are you going to talk more about the digital key and security, or you touched on it more?
No,
more or less.
No, I'll just finish. Just want to finish off the other. The transport. As I was saying, we hope there'll be others there, concierge flights, all that kind of stuff. And then with transport, the same thing is. Same deal. Here's like you can go to Uber, Lyft, and Google inside the app. You don't have to go out of it.
Does that create any revenue for the company?
The plan is to you know, once you get certain volumes, start engaging with these guys through the network.
Right.
You know,
so once you build
at a high level, you know, like Eric and Mark, and I have those connections, right? I mean, they all have their own business development, but it's like relationships. So there is a revenue model. We haven't built it into the revenue lines now, but there is an anticipation. But it's also the data. It depends how we may not. There might be more value in the data because we're bringing customers in, you know, because they like the UX to it. So who knows? I don't know, you know. And you know, we've been pretty clear with that from the get-go. Our revenue streams in the short term is really about bookings of the hotels and the value of stay to, you know, increase. People, and then we'll start, you know, they might use stay to pay for all this stuff as well.
Yeah.
All right. So that, you know, that's pretty much the app presentation. We talked a little bit about the roadmap and sort of the strategies around that. Equally, I can show you the desktop version if people want to do that, or we can jump into. You're keen on the digital key model.
Well, no, I am, because, you know, I think you're promoting this as one of the real features. I can't see how it works in a COVID world. I'd like you to explain that to me. I'm not trying to be provocative, I'm just asking the question.
Sure.
You know, how do you create if you're a customer, if you go into a bank, you've got to show them 3 types of identification, et cetera, to open up a bank account.
Yep.
We don't, how to identify, so if I could create a false identity online to make bookings, I could then have a digital key, I could walk up the back stairs or up the elevator or wherever. I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was in the room next to a bloke that no one has seen. They might have been tested for temperature on the way in, but the whole digital key thing, in a post-COVID world, I understand how it would work when the people get more comfortable. So it's a question of timing of the digital key. I mean, so when would you expect that you'd roll that out? Immediately, and how does it work?
Okay, best way is probably show you the video of the open keys, because they are one of the digital key suppliers, and they've got a nice promo around that. We've got our own too. Actually, I'll show you ours.
You do raise a really valid question, though.
I thought so too,
About
yeah.
identity fraud.
Yeah.
So in my previous business, it was all hotels. There was a level of fraud. It was last minute bookings with a credit card, check in the next day in obscure locations, and they check in with fake ID. By the time you realised what was going on, 3 weeks later the chargebacks happened. Hotels like, sorry, we're not giving you any details, and we're with a bill. But when you're playing in the consumer space, the credit card, the merchant services, their fraud detection's pretty high. So, but you do pose a really valid question.
Yeah.
And adding to that, the guys in America who experience, surprisingly, they don't take. I didn't understand why, because in Australia we do, or most of us do. You take payment up front, but in America they don't. There's quite a few that don't. They do it at the end, so they have a lot of fraud. So the digital key or the digital experience creates a digital footprint too. So there is some sort of potential benefit for the hotelier. I think they need to change their systems to, their problems shouldn't be necessarily solved through a digital key.
So Mark, the digital key check-in, do they require identification, passport, driver's license,
Okay, this is where
to make the reservation?
Correct. Well, yes, correct.
Yeah, as opposed to just name, credit card, check-in.
Correct. So when when I showed earlier the step of the digital key ticking, when you've got that, we've done the integration with the hotels that's providing that. At the moment, it's a search and booking. I'm signaling I want digital key. As we go forward, the digital key experience is in that stepping stone. It opens up a step in there to say passport or driver's license. The camera opens up, takes a photo. So there's what we call ID capture.
You do the KYC when they're opening the digital key.
And through that, we haven't got it in this.
And once that's done, there's no KYC. That's what.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. There's none unless the hotel. Yeah.
But so let's not worry about the actual the scammer checking into the hotel. As long as you have 100-point check of ID, then and you can prove that you've adhered to all the requirements of identifying that customer.
Correct.
Then if it's fraud, then you go to your bank and you say, I've collected the enough information to satisfy your requirements, and then they will refund you the money based off your due diligence.
Correct.
Is my understanding.
And in the process, we've done the integration, but it's not in the presentation because the hotel, because it's a live data, that hotel we haven't done the integration with, right? But in that step, what happens in terms of OpenCare, which is the one we have our preferred supply, but us, I'd do it too. The camera opens up to say, well, you choose passport, driver's license, you choose either one, click on passport, the camera automatically opens up, you take a digital photo of your passport, and it becomes part of your data packet. It goes, comes to us, and we pass it on to the hotel. It becomes part of your profile in the wallet. So that's ID capture that we talk about in the presentation document. That's already done, built. It's not out. I mean, we've done the integration, but that's the OpenKey technology. I mean, it's a step in the camera. We could do it. It's not that expensive. It's an easy process to do, but it's an ID capture. So they've got your name, date, credit card, ID. I think they're the key, and obviously your travel dates and anyone that's traveling with you. So they get all that. We capture all that through the booking process. Where the fraud can happen is I've found Gary's passport on the road and I've made a booking with him, but I have to have his credit card too. So there's a number of steps